to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
When it states use as directed, that is just a challenge to my personal creativity.
And Dale Hummel.
A Texas major needs to be on your bucket list.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, before we get into current events, and we may not see eye to eye on current events today, I'm excited to be in South Texas. I've been down here for a couple days, helping some families, and it's even better now that you're here.
Yes, I have arrived.
And you had a nice voyage getting here from the north.
No, I did not. I did not have a nice voyage. It was not fun. Dale does not quite grasp the concept.
I found entertainment value in it.
I just can't wake up and walk out of a hotel room and look like I look. It takes a little time, it takes a little effort, it takes a little energy. And so when I get to an airport at 6:15 or 6:30 in the morning, I have been up for a while already because I have makeup, hair, wardrobe, bags, all kinds of stuff, a rent car. And I get to the airport in Detroit about 6:15, I think, yesterday morning. And my flight was supposed to leave about 8:45. Needless to say, 13 hours later, I got to Houston, and then I made the 3-hour drive to the San Antonio. I was not in a good mood. Not at all.
I don't feel sorry about the extra time getting ready. A half hour, shower, dress, go.
Complicate matters. While I am on the plane in the air because they have Wi-Fi, Dale and Cherie keep calling. I can't answer the phone, and neither one of them understand that.
If you have Wi-Fi, you can FaceTime.
No, you're not supposed to, Dale.
I'm just saying you probably can if you have access to Wi-Fi.
God, moving on.
I was driving, so I did not want to text. I do not like texting and driving.
Well, you have Craig here. He could have drove for you.
He could have, but he was not at that time.
Oh, okay. Well,
so it is. We are at San Antonio. The stock show is underway here. It's good. I was out there the last couple days. We've had a chance to visit with some of our Texas families and assist them. But Ryan, despite my request, there is still no return of the cookie dough stand.
Well, I'm just crushed for you.
I did have a $16 cheeseburger that gave me a bellyache.
Oh, that's lovely.
I'd rather have the cookie dough stand. Much rather have it. But it's sunny. The weather's as good as I can remember it being. It's really, really enjoyable here the last couple days.
Lovely.
Would you like to talk about the truckers up in Canada?
Well, the truckers up in Canada, it's coming to the U.S. too. It starts next week.
Coming near you soon.
No, like a whole different one.
Oh, got it.
They're starting in Canada, in California next week. Yes, it's organizing now. So all of y'all go out, buy your toilet paper now, whatever, go hoard all the weird things because, this is going to be a problem.
I think there is going to be, I'm not saying that there should be, but people are doing some of that. The shelves, and again, it could be coincidence, but the shelves in the grocery stores in our area, my wife had called me yesterday and said she had to go to 2 stores just to get what she was trying to shop for. Continues to be an issue.
Well,
do you think this organization do you think there will be a convoy from California to Washington?
Well, that's what they're saying they're doing. So why would they lie?
I don't know. I don't know if it'll get that far because all the mandates, all the governors are getting ahead of the president and they're eliminating the mandates. And it seems like we're pulling back restrictions. So I'm not sure, but I support those truckers up in Canada. I absolutely stand behind them. And they have gained probably as much or more recognition and support and followers across the world, not just in Canada. And what does the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, do? Invokes the Emergency Powers Act against the truckers' protest, where basically it allows him to do anything. He can go in there and militarily remove them if he chooses now. An act that just isn't ever invoked.
Okay, look. The dude is not a real great leader. Let's just be honest. Okay, he's not super good at this.
He is not even a good person.
All these people are putting pressure on the little fella. He was got to do something because these people aren't budging. I guess they now can go arrest them and like seize their bank accounts and all kinds of good stuff. It's going to be great.
When I see news clips with him making some of his statements, I would swear those are coming from the leader of a communist country.
I'm not very impressed. I've never been very impressed with him, but like he's clearly not handling this well. But
clearly, well, our project leader on the Argentine Angus endeavor,
that would be me. What did I do?
No, the one that lives in Canada that does all the logistics and coordinates the imports and all the paperwork and all that. He currently lives in Canada, and he attempts on occasion to defend some of these policies, but I promise I'm looking forward to visiting with him because he's just going to roll over on this one.
I don't know this person. I am the leader of the Angus. I don't know what you're talking about. Moving on.
Got it. The domestic leader, we'll say. How about the Durham probe? Things are kind of turning over there.
Oh, yeah. Hillary's a lying, cheating, criminal bitch. We all knew that.
Yeah.
Next.
Now it appears as though they have a lot of evidence talking about Hillary being just that they.
I mean, it
will beyond. They talk about the Russia collusion with Trump, and we've gone over this. And Hillary's the one paying Russians for a fake dossier, and then it comes out now some of the same things that people are talking about, and they were accused of being crazy, that Hillary's campaign infiltrated the servers in the Trump's campaign and in the White House. And there's no way this went unnoticed by other federal agencies. There's no way.
Oh, they all saw it.
So they either turned a blind eye, they assisted. I don't know. And they talk about the one meeting that was in the Oval Office with Obama and Biden as the vice president at that time. There was awareness. Let's go there at the very, very least that this was happening.
Oh, they were more than aware. They didn't care. They wanted Trump hung. So, but the problem with all this is there is all this information. She is not a good person. Whatever throw the book out.
I think she needs hung in the town square.
It's not going to happen. That is my point. Nothing is going to happen.
I hope you're wrong. I would have agreed with that a few months ago. Right now, I'm hopeful. I don't
think you're going to be greatly disappointed there, sir.
Isn't it hard to imagine that this can take place in the United States? Something that atrocious and nothing happens.
I think it's hard to imagine a lot of stuff that's taking place in the United States right now. So I'm just being honest.
Do you know who I am a big fan of?
Let me guess. The basketball player that's not going to get to play basketball anymore because he hates China.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge NBA fan, but Enes Kanter,
Ernie Cantor, whatever his name is.
I mean, he's been coming out and speaking out about the atrocities in China, and it appears as though he understands this probably better than most. It's interesting to me. The NBA players can protest whatever, support the riot, support the looting, whatever they're going to do, and the NBA is completely behind them. When Enes Kanter comes out and talks about the atrocities in China, because China is a larger market for the NBA than the United States, they do everything possible to redirect. So the Celtics trade Kanter to Houston. Houston waives his contract. I am not completely sure what that means other than he no longer has a contract and will not be playing. He is not an all-star, I don't think, but he's a very solid center from what I can tell, and probably better than many that are currently playing, and he will not be playing. And I cannot call this a coincidence. Cannot. Follow the dollars.
It's not a coincidence, but okay, look, here's the thing. This is just like with Colin Kaepernick or whatever nappy head it is, whatever his name is.
I don't speak that name.
Okay, well, anyway, here's the thing. Neither one of them are all-stars. So, therefore, the owners of the teams and the NBA and the league, they're all weighing whether letting this individual, and I mean, Colin Kaepernick, whatever his name is, I can't even say it. But anyway, he protests the flag in America and we're all racist and whatever. This guy's talking about how China is doing unghastly things, all this other stuff. Two completely different points of view on two different countries. The story is the same. Everybody who has the power has to make the decision. Is allowing this somewhat talented but not a huge asset to our team, is that going to cost us money, revenue? Is this going to increase bad press, all this other stuff? So basically they both got sidelined. It's not any different.
And I understand the business decision that was made. in that manner. But I think the two stories are completely opposite in terms of.
I said that.
There's one of them that is speaking from knowledge and experience.
Dale, just because you and I agree with the one guy and not the other guy, it doesn't make it the same.
No, it's not just agreeing. It's right from wrong.
No, that's not how this works.
Yes.
That is not how industry works, sir. That is not. Right and wrong is whatever. You're right.
I would like every listener. I would prefer that they stand up and just avoid the NBA. I don't watch NBA games, so it doesn't affect me.
It doesn't me
outside
either.
of what I see on the news. But this is wrong in every level, at every level.
Jesus.
Because somebody speaks out against a communist country like China, you're gonna be pulled. I understand, and it appears to me, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but China funnels more dollars into the NBA than the United States. So I understand. I get business. I understand their decision on that standpoint. But maybe they should just come out and say, "Hey, we're pulling you because you're not good for business in China." Well, that doesn't reflect real well on them. So instead, they go a backwards route with it. It's just crap. I'm very angry.
Again, Dale, just because you agree with one person and their stance does not make it any different. And you were all.
Have you listened to his interviews? Have you listened to it?
You were all for Colin Nappyhead getting benched and worn out. See, you're a hypocrite. That is what I cannot stand about you. You are a hypocrite.
He had nothing to stand on. His claims of let's go burn to me, that's ridiculous.
It is the exact same principle, two different narratives, and you wanted the one guy to burn an effigy, this guy, poor little Ernie. You can't have it both ways, sir. This is not Whataburger. You cannot have it both ways, Burger King, whatever it is.
I am telling you, this comes down to standing up for what we do and what we believe here in the United States versus the CC communist crazy ass regime. It is night and day to me.
No,
I understand the parallel you're trying to bring together, but it's wrong. Just wrong.
Okay, next, moving on. Bye.
Oh my! What else do you have?
He
on
did
your
not
current
take
events?
his crazy pills this morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry.
I did not. I keep saying I'm going to get those meds for anxiety, and I haven't gotten them yet. I'm working on it. Work in progress. What about our Russian skater?
I don't even know. Okay, I don't even know anything about this. This is what I know about the figure skating. So the one guy of the U.S. got Rona and he couldn't do whatever, and I guess the backup wins the gold. That's all I know.
Yeah, I don't have enough information on it to probably dive in very deep. But one of the Russian skaters tests positive for some type of blood pressure medication or heart medication that you would assume is associated with doping back in December, and she's still competing. And part of the argument is she's very young, under the age of 18. So they're in a gray area on what to do. To me, it seems like political bullshit again, like we're talking about some of the others that Russia maybe has a little more control than they should in that Olympic committee, but they're very confused on what to do with this one. As of now, I believe she is competing, but if she medals, then it's a mess. I will know more about it by next week. And Ryan, I do see a parallel. We're going to talk more about this once it all comes out and we can evaluate the information that we have access to. But you could parallel it to the stock show industry and youth showing in the stock show. And when there's a violation there, it's sensitive. And you've obviously experienced and talked about this, and we have. But I believe that
it wasn't sensitive when it was me.
No, it is. But exactly. But it appears to be pretty. They're much more
now
cautious.
It is.
Yes.
At
every level. And I get it, but it'll be interesting to see how all of that actually unfolds, because I am unsure how it'll end up. But people are very unhappy about it, from what I can tell.
I'm just telling you, I don't know enough about the Olympics. I have not been around Callie all week. She is the Olympic news source, and all I know is about the skating. I heard a little about that little 18-year-old Russian girl. We don't know what's going to happen to her or whatever. But again, if this child is that young, I don't think that she's going out on her own and doping herself. I'm sure her handlers are.
I agree. I get it. I think
it is what it is.
I can only imagine what, to my knowledge, and I don't have a lot of it, but a lot of these athletes are obviously identified at a very young age and they're in their training program. I can only imagine what that is in Russia. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's go to a more positive note. In San Antonio at the stock show, Ryan, this is exciting. I mean, there are stock show kids obviously everywhere. This is one of the big stages. it's good. I'm happy to be here. I look forward to visiting with you and hanging out the next couple of days. But there's a big line in the staging area. It's a goat and lamb move-in day on the market side. We had the ewe show and the doe show the last couple of days. No, they're waiting in line. Some of them are probably unloading right now, the first of them.
Oh, my.
It's a big line. I had one of our families send a picture in that I posted on Facebook. It is a big line.
You know what I love about the lines? And people outside of Texas will not understand this because it doesn't even happen at OYE. I don't know how it doesn't happen in OYE, but anyway, no one understands the sitting in hours in line overnight, all this stuff. So, but we do. They tell us what time we can get to the parking lot, and you line up, and when I'm talking rows and rows of trailers, like we're talking at the very least 25 plus rows of trailers with at least 10 trailers in each line, probably more like 20. And the rows could go to like over 50. But, people don't understand this. They don't fathom it. They don't know. But the best thing about the line sitting process for me is I don't do it. And so I will when I was involved in brokering all this stuff, I would follow the little trucks and trailers and the people, and I would get them in line and get them sorted out. And then I would go in my own car and I'll go get them food and then be like, okay, bye. See y'all in the morning.
Real nice.
I don't do line sitting. Okay, Dale, let's get real. Do you think any of those families or children wanted me to sit in line all night with them?
God, no.
I would drive people freaking crazy.
That wouldn't go well. I'm with you. I get it.
No.
I get it. But it is interesting. And it's interesting, like you say, there's not that huge line at some of the other shows that are fairly large shows. We sit in line occasionally at Louisville or Kansas City or Arizona National.
Not like this.
No, this is, and
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying that it's the fault of any of the Texas majors. It's just that many people trying to get into the same place at the same time.
And I think part of it is like in the lamb and goats, and I believe it's the same in the lambs. They can only bring one.
Oh no, we can only bring one.
So you have a lot of these families. I mean, each, instead of 5, 6, 7 on a trailer that you're going to load for that show, there's one.
Yeah, that's part of the, thing. And especially in the market, and some, like, I think in the breeding gilts you can bring more, but like in the junior
doe show
heifers,
you can bring more, but the market animals.
In the junior heifers you can only bring one. But so basically what you're doing is like when you do that, and it's been that way since I started showing, by the way. This is not, anything new. That's one trailer per kid or per family, etc. Because it's
and I helped a couple families unload yesterday in the.
You did not.
I did. We had
you
nothing.
Sat on the phone and watched and maybe pointed your finger.
Okay. So when I go out to where they're unloading to see where those families are at, they're saying, "Hey, we're waiting in line. We're coming up." There's probably, for the goat and lamb area where they unload, and this was just unloading does, and there wasn't as big a line, but there was a line. There's probably at least 10 very organized or more spots to unload. And they're moving things through as efficiently as I've seen anywhere, and there's still a line.
You've been down here, it, but like, I don't think, unless you've lived in Texas and actually gone through the major show process at least once, you don't realize how many animals show at every single one of these shows. Like, you just
even better yet, just exhibitors, because it is only one animal. It's massive.
You don't. People don't get it. And I know people that have come and watched, and they're like, "Oh, this is a huge show." But until you've been through the whole process at least once, I don't think you ever get it.
And it's organized, but I still call it just chaotic. If you have some anxiety issues and you're trying to get unloaded and get situated, it's jammed. Jammed in there. For the people in the north, there's no stands, there's no blowers, there's nothing. Your show boxes and all your equipment, your feed are contained. You have your pin, and you put the animals in there. You get all your stuff in that same pin, or figure out a way to have it in that area. And outside of Texas, it just isn't done like that. It's different. It's interesting.
I've been in Texas my whole life. I just don't see. I think that as long as we've done this, and as many intelligent people have been involved on all sides of it, whether it was in a management side or, being a county agent, an ag teacher, a parent, whatever. I don't think there's an answer to fix this. I think it is what it is. And
No, I think it would have been fixed a long time ago if there was an answer. Before we move on to our main topic, Boxel Manufacturing and Pope's Joy Livestock Hauling sponsored this episode. Very grateful for both of them. On Boxel side of it, we're in the south. Probably warm enough for a Boxel chiller today. Probably warm enough. Pope Joy Livestock Hauling, they're making their trips out west, some trips east. It's going to start much more regular. I know he's going to be going down into Texas in a couple weeks from the Midwest. If you have any hauling needs, give them a call. Show box, blower, Boxel chiller, anything fits into your show equipment needs, give Boxel a call, please. Greatly appreciate their support.
You do.
I do. Do you have any Beyond the Ring Junior Livestock Association sponsor?
Yes, I do. So we have a new corporate sponsor. Again, we got them about 2 weeks ago, but they are from Texas, and so they are in the middle of all this major show drama like we all are, and so I'm a little late on getting it all up. But JH Cattle, Mini Herefords, and Mini Mafia publication are our third corporate sponsor for the BTRJLA, and we appreciate them. JH Cattle, Mini Herefords is in Carbon, Texas, owned and operated by Will and Shelby Hogan and their daughters, JC, Hannah, and Adeline. Raising and showing Mini Herefords is what they do as a family, and supporting youth is their passion. Mini Mafia is the only publication in the miniature Hereford industry, and their goal is to provide a wealth of knowledge for the miniature Hereford exhibitor, breeder, and enthusiast. They are expanding their capabilities every day to help the rapidly growing miniature Hereford breed and get them out there on a larger platform. The quality of the breed itself has drastically improved, and they want to help with the marketing outlets. By the end of the year, they plan to be able to offer Mini Mafia family members a one-stop shop for marketing, sales, printed marketing, shows, and digital marketing for their love of all things mini. So we appreciate JH Cattle and Mini Mafia for being a corporate sponsor.
Thank you, JH Cattle and the Mini Mafia. Greatly, greatly appreciated. The topic this week, breed papers versus breed classifications.
Again, something most people will not understand.
Yes, exactly. They will. It's interesting, though, because depending on where you're at in the country and how much traveling to different stock shows you do, it's vastly different. Everywhere is doing something different. We live, Ryan and I, sometimes get in a little bubble, and we think that everything is done just...
I am not in a bubble.
Oh, my, the smallest of small bubbles.
You have lost your damn mind.
So with that, I grew up, obviously, in the North, and it was pretty standard, and we're going to talk about market and breeding, but primarily market, and we'll start on that. When we went to even our county fair or our state fair, let's say a cattle show, if you had a Hereford steer, an Angus steer, whatever it may be, you had registration papers on those. You presented the registration papers, and everybody's in a panic because they didn't decide to register that calf or transfer the name until the last minute. So we're calling the associations, getting papers faxed, all of these different things going on. But you had to have your registration papers at check-in, basically. There was no classification. If you had registration papers, that was an Angus steer, that is a Hereford steer, or whatever it is, that is your pass to get into that division, period. Ryan, do we have that down here?
No, we don't have any of that. We have a 3-person classification system and 3 people that have been versed in what they need to be looking for as breed type and breed characteristics for those breeds stand out there. They have little chips. Normally it's white is good, red is bad, and they throw them in a little bag or a bowl or whatever. And it's, if you 2 whites, you're in, 2 reds, you're out. It's very simple.
Done. Just like that. Uh-huh. So it's interesting to me. And there are qualified people, obviously, that they bring in to do this job. And it's not a good job. It's something you probably prefer not to do because...
And you would be surprised how many people like pine away for that job. I'm like, I would not want that at all.
No, I think it would be very...
No,
make
like people
angry.
Want it. They beg for it. Like they get into fights for it. It's weird.
That's interesting to me. And we've got so much that I want to talk about on this, but I understand. And let's talk about those people that are classifying that are breeders or they have experience in the industry, maybe an association person, whatever it may be.
Normally in Texas, how we try to do it is it's like one county agent type person that had either is a county agent or had experience with the extension program, one ag teacher, former, current, whatever, and then a representative from whatever breed is out there.
Okay, so with that, so they're trying to get a diverse group. I think that's all good, and I know that we're looking for certain breed characteristics, and we continue the divisions, breed divisions, color divisions, whatever you want to refer to them as, continue to evolve over the years. Sometimes we'll make some changes, but it's really come down to a situation that if we're classifying these livestock as, let's say, a fine wool and the sheep side of it, that they meet the color, the fleece, the head shape, all those. But if one of them is just too darn good, in theory, what happens, Ryan?
I don't believe that.
I do.
Well, I don't.
I believe that when we have some of these, what we call the minor breeds, and one comes through, and let's say a Hereford pig, the markings are correct, the ears are correct, but this thing is as good as any crossbred you've ever seen. I think there's some classification committees that are going to boot that animal, and they're going to say, no, this isn't a Hereford. It's too good. And that is my, like you, Ryan, that is my concern. I don't, there can't be much consistency with it, and it causes me issues because all of a sudden you're trying to breed and or feed one that's as good as it can be without getting classified out, even if the color and the other breed characteristics per se that we're looking at are in place.
I disagree with you. So we're just gonna have to.
So you think that that none of them are coming? None of those guys in the classification.
I'm not saying that does not happen, but it is not every single time. It is not in the majority. All this other stuff. No, I don't believe that. I see great animals, amazing animals that are just as good as crossbreds at Texas major shows in every single breed every year. So they didn't kick them all out.
No, but that's the problem that I think some do get. And again, I'm not saying this is wide scale. I mean, at every show or anything like that.
That's what you just said.
No, I'm saying it happens. And when it does happen, it's a huge problem. I assume, and I don't know, I'm sure every show is different. You're allowed to go show as a cross, assumably, if you don't make it into your breed, or I hope that's what's done.
Other than the Fort Worth Steer Show, if you get kicked out of your breed there, you're done.
You're just done.
Yep.
Go home.
Uh-huh. No, well, you can't go home till the show's over, but yeah.
That's double painful. But I understand where you're coming from. And I've seen some great ones get through classification committees. I think it's all on those individual committees. But and I'm not trying to promote or not promote classification. I think each region of the country has kind of evolved in what works best for them. And I'll tell you what, I probably have more positive on the classification side than just presenting a registration paper. Ryan, do we even want to go down?
Just presenting a registration paper doesn't prove shit.
No.
Anybody can send in a registration paper, just like making up EPDs or a birth date or anything else. Anybody can spend $50 and register an animal.
This is true.
I mean, that just is what it is. Anyone can pay whatever fee it costs to register an animal in any breed association. And so that doesn't prove that animal is what it is. It proves somebody gave you papers.
No, I completely agree with this. If you go into the different species individually on the breed papers, let's go into the sheep. And I had to make a couple phone calls last night because I was unaware what sheep breed associations were still in existence and active. And to my surprise, there's 30 some sheep breed associations that are still active, is what I'm told. That's quite a few. Shocking to me, actually. And the frame sheep people get excited about our podcast, Ryan?
Yeah, they don't, but next.
They all have to present their papers at the North American, and that's our largest frame sheep or breeding sheep show in the country. And all of them are papered. There is no classification. If you have your papers, you go in the ring. In their defense, and I can see this and I can feel this. And I used to judge some of the open breeding sheep shows long ago and was not comfortable at all in this area. But they, to a certain degree, expect the judge to bring breed character into play enough that they will discount those that they feel are crossbred or do not meet breed character standards. With that said, I believe those standards have become very relaxed the past 5+ years.
People will not like this or whatever, but I think now there are going to be times, and with everything in life, there are exceptions to things. But by and large, I feel like it is my duty as a judge to judge whatever is put in front of me. And that's it. And they were put in that class or that age bracket or that weight bracket, and you were asked to sort them accordingly, all this other stuff. Now, I'm not going to, I'm going to tell you, I have been in situations where I knew, for instance, that a dehorned Angus is not an Angus. Angus are polled. So, and I mean, when you got dehorned scars up there, I don't know how the animal got in there, but it got in there and they showed it, whatever. Now, I did not bring up the fact per se that the animal was dehorned, but the animal did not win.
Because of that?
No, the animal was good. There was another good animal that was polled. So therefore, if it's close on this deal and I can see dehorned scars, you're probably not going to win. Do you not agree with that, Dale?
Well, you just said that you should just place the animals. It's once they come in, they're legal.
And what did I say before that? There are exceptions to everything. Dale, a purebred Angus cannot have dehorned scars.
I agree completely.
Do you not at least agree with that, Crazy?
I am not arguing that. I just think that, and I appreciate what you did
And
there.
I said, because a breed character. I did not call out the individual thing. I said, and like breed character on this other one is greater than the one in second, and moved on. But yeah, like there are exceptions, but by and large, I think you're just supposed to like place what's out there. But as I said from the beginning, which you only listen to what you want to listen to, just like you only read portions of the text that you want to read, there are exceptions.
Agreed. And I believe in general, the atmosphere or the breeding sheep community, the judges in the breeding sheep community, I think they feel more comfortable sorting on breed character. And it's kind of, it's kind of how it's always been done. So I'm not saying that all of them do that, but I believe it's in play more than the other species. If we go into the swine arena, I think there's some parentage testing probably going on with the Berkshires. There's not a lot of it. So again, if you're just in a papered show, back to what you say, Ryan, it's just a paper pretty much.
Literally.
If we hit the cattle breed associations, and again, I don't know each and every one of them. And I haven't studied all the bylaws, but most of the embryo calves across breeds do have to go back to parentage verification.
Right.
Now, if you're showing a breeding heifer or something like that, and you tried to falsify that, at some point, it's probably going to come back and bite you right in the behind. If you're making a natural born Angus steer that you need papered, guess what? It's probably pretty loosely run. Can they go back and parentage test if somebody protests and the show wants to do it? Yeah, I assume so. I think they talk about the Indiana State Fair, the limousines and the Angus want a DNA match in some of those cattle. I think it depends what's available through that breed association. We can go into the goats, and guess what? On the market goat side, there are no breeds. Everybody shows by weight.
I was going to say, why are you even bringing this up about a goat?
Well, because we do have the ABGA where you split them between full bloods and percentages, and they're always complaining, well, that one's not a full blood, it's a percentage. And to my knowledge, and I to claim ignorance, I know very little about the ABGA registration process, but I believe if it's a full blood or just like the birth date on it, it's kind of like in the sheep thing. You send it in and they kick it back to you and it's done. They're whatever you put on that paper is what they become. You're a big fan of that one, aren't you, Ryan?
No, I'm not.
We do have another example, Illinois State Fair, and I talked about papers would get you into the ring as long as you had registration papers that animal is considered a purebred. In the Market Lamb Weather Show at the Illinois State Fair, I believe you still have to present registration papers. Okay, good luck with finding a purebred sheep, especially on the weather side of the world. They don't exist. But you can get papers on anything without too much difficulty. But then they also put you through a classification committee, Ryan. So you're papered and go through a classification committee. That's one of the few places that I know that actually implement both. And I don't even know that fixes it, to be perfectly honest with you.
So back in the day, even before I showed, so this was like, I don't know when, like on the 8th day after Jesus made the earth and like everything cooled down or whatever. It was a long time ago. But in Texas, I don't know about pigs or sheep, but I just hear the stories that my parents used to tell about steers. You would go through classification. And so back then it wasn't a chip system. They'd talk like as a 3-person committee, okay, or whatever. And if they thought you were questionable, like, well, maybe this one gets in, maybe it doesn't. Like they had the option to let you go through, kick you right out, or they could put you on the rail. And so they would hold you to the end. And at the end, they would come back and reevaluate these questionable ones. And that's when you would present your paperwork and like state your case and argue on why your animal is what it's supposed to be. I was very disappointed because, again, I had to show a lot of these breed animals because my parents thought my brother should win, even though, whatever, we're not getting into that. So he got to show the crossbred ones because he was older. But I was very disappointed the system was still not in effect when I was showing, because I would have liked to been in the discussion part of this. I think I could have won him over. I really do.
I don't know about that.
I think I could have. I'm most confident.
That
I won sales talk a lot, sir. A lot.
That's interesting to me. And it's interesting. We just have a lot of different systems in place throughout the country. And I've had a couple questions and I never pulled them in for question and answer, probably because I sit down before this and grab 3 very quickly. But I know that we've had some come in that it was cattle. It was either, I believe it was an Angus steer that was advertised for winning the Angus division in one of the Southern shows, but they openly advertise as out of one of the club calf bulls, the crossbred bulls.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any issue with that?
It's part of the game.
It is.
Like,
and it's real.
I don't believe that there is, or at least in Texas, I don't know. I've judged a lot of those state fairs up north. I do think some of those are purebred, or they very much look very purebred to me from all the indications that I can tell. But I do not know how many animals anywhere in the U.S. that aren't from a registered breeder type seed stock operation that aren't a little crossed up. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Those steers that are winning these shows down here, they were bred to be a steer, a slick steer, a Fort Worth steer, whatever. It wasn't like, oh, this was a planned mating, etc. And so it's part of the game. Just like you said earlier, you put the one out there you think is good enough that you can still get in. And the harder you ride that line and straddle that fence, if you stay on the right side of it, you're going to win a lot of banners. And if you fall over on the other side, you're going to be in the crossbreds. But that's part of the game. So no, that doesn't offend me. It does offend a bunch of people. What is offensive about that to me is that people are stupid enough to put that information out there. That is offensive.
Well, I think it's at least honest, because everybody knows what game it's a game that we're playing as breeders.
I realize that, but do you not also but you're saying that it stirs all these people up and all this other stuff. You don't have to give the Pulse that information. You can literally say, I don't know.
Agreed. That would cause.
Why would you not say, I don't know?
That would cause less controversy.
Thank you.
Maybe dishonest, but less controversial.
Why do you think I don't ask what they're out of? I don't want to know.
So I think in this situation, under classification, and again, I don't know. I don't want people to think I'm pushing for registration papers or classification. I don't have an answer.
I will push for classification over registration papers every single day. I'm just gonna just
throw it right out there, and I think it's the world that you grew up in. But I believe
it has nothing to do with that. There's more honesty in this than there is that.
More honestly,
it
openly encourages crossbreeding to make that better breed.
It does not matter, Dale. Anybody can get a paper saying that animal is what it is. There is zero checks and balances in that system. Zero,
other than integrity.
Okay.
So I think in this situation, so with breed classification or registration papers, whatever it is, but let's look at breed classification and from a positive note. I'm not being negative at all on this, because I'm with you, Ryan.
No, you've been pretty negative on
whether you want to believe. I'd rather argue with you, but I probably lean a little towards a breed classification because of the things you've already talked about. But it's interesting, and not in a negative way, but it's interesting that breeders are going to adjust whatever their market is. If your market's in the South, you're trying to put breed livestock into these shows, you're going to adjust all of your breeding decisions according to that. Versus if you're in the North, you're going to take a different approach in terms of breeding that animal to make sure that you don't get in trouble with the registration or the association on your breed papers. But it's very different, and it's very, very wide. They're far apart. So I think it's just one of those things that we have to acknowledge. This is the game. These are the rules in place. And like anything else, as Ryan stated, those that push those limits and don't get sorted out, they're going to win a lot. It's that simple. So who's riding that line the hardest? But I tell you what, Ryan, I would feel terrible, and it isn't that way down here. But because of where I'm from, if I sold an animal as a Hereford or an Angus or whatever, and go to any species, it's at a Texas major, and it gets classified out, I feel terrible about that. But in your mind, that's something when that buyer looks at it, they need to say, hey, do I feel like it's going to classify? This is a risk I'm taking, I assume.
Everyone knows that. I don't think anybody, whether they're the breeder or the broker of an animal that gets classified out, feels good about it. But I also don't think that they need to take it like super tough or to heart or whatever, because you talked about integrity in the paper situation. Okay, there is some integrity in this situation in classifying, because those three people stand out there in front of God and everybody and throw those chips. And they see the kids and the animals and all this other stuff. So it's not, I mean, while I'm not saying that it's not done secretly, like you're not supposed to see who throws what, you can a lot of the times because the bucket is clear or white or whatever. You'll see what color comes out of a person's hand, all this other stuff. There is a lot of transparency in what goes on in the classification part of it.
I would agree.
And so I think that does keep the integrity quite high. It's never going to be perfect. There are going to be, I mean, like you said, there's random situations. There are going to be situations where someone that probably should have classified by the standards that are put out there did. And for some reason, whether the animal they thought was too good, they didn't like little Johnny's grandpa, whatever you want to, however you want to go about this. There is no system that is not flawed. But when you are making those buying decisions here in Texas and you are looking at those animals, I don't care what species it is, whether it's sheep, pigs, or cattle, you know what the game is. And a lot of times, these classifiers are the same people. It's not like they get a pool of 5,000 people. You can talk to them, ask them, hey, how big a feather do you need on a Hereford or anything and all this other stuff.
No, and I think it's very transparent.
I mean, you can't do it while they're out there, but you can go up and find them and talk to them, pick their brain about what they think is right, all this other stuff. But I'm telling you that as part of it, you know it. And when I was selling them, and if I start back selling them, I'm going to be like, this one gets in, he wins. I don't know how many times I told somebody that. You got to make the decision. You're the one writing the check to this dude right here if you want to take that risk. But he gets in, he wins.
That's interesting. And I completely understand and get where you're coming from. It's a choice those buyers make down here, where if you were to take that and through that situation into the north, that breeder sold it as such and such, then they're going to be very upset with that breeder. But totally different situation. On the integrity part, I do not want it to come across that I believe shows with registration papers have more integrity or anything like that. I was stating that if there's integrity in that person filling out the papers that send it into the breed association, then it's probably correct. I'm not standing behind that there is that all the time. So not that one system is more than the others, but that is
no, I was just saying
basically all there is to lean on there. So
yeah, I was just talking about, you brought that up in that thing, but there's a lot of transparency in this process of the classification deal in Texas. I mean, and I know the classifiers know this or whatever. Like, if you're really studying, you can find out who threw the white chips and who threw the colored chips when your kid's up there. I mean, if you've got good eyes and all this other, I mean, yeah. So there is a lot of transparency to it. And again, I don't think anybody ever sells an animal with the intention of, I sold that one as a Red Angus, and there's no way in hell he's ever going to make it, but I'm going to cash my check. But I do think because it has been this way for so long, when it doesn't work out and a kid does get classed out, and it happens multiple times at every major show in Texas, regardless of species, we just roll with the punches and go on. It's not, I mean, I have seen people get very angry, violent even, but I mean, it is what it is. More times than not, it's part of the game. You roll the dice. It worked for you or you didn't, and you move on. And we've thought about this a lot, and I just don't think that there's a better system for what we do down here right now than what we're doing.
I would agree with that. And it's interesting because you're really trying to find that sweet spot rather than try to make the absolute best one that's marked a certain way, just in case somebody's going to call it too good. You're shooting for that sweet spot. How good or how far can we push this and it still makes it through the classification? Just like your comment, if this one classifies, he wins.
No,
and there's a lot of that. You're riding, you're breeding, you're feeding, a broker's purchasing, all of those things, trying to get the best they can that still gets through that classification. And remember, to me, it can be a little political, no different than the judge out there sorting them in the ring. There may be a classifier somewhere, sometime that, like Ryan said, maybe he didn't like your grandpa. Maybe, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
We can't avoid that. You just can't.
No.
That's going to exist, and we need to acknowledge it exists. Let's hopefully not that much, but it does exist. But in essence, that breed classification committee, can you agree with this statement, Ryan? That breed classification committee is clearly playing a role in who's going to be that breed champion.
I've never seen a classification where everybody got in. I mean, at least not to my knowledge that I can remember. But yeah, so that is part of it. But I think the thing is just we have all come to accept that part of our fate is wrapped up in that first hurdle, and that is getting through that. And that is why you will see in all this, that why, like, for instance, in the crossbreds or the medium bulls or the other color crosses, there's a lot more cell holes in those things because there's a lot more steers and exhibitors in those things because there is no classification. You don't have to worry about that or But if you want to take a chance at getting that breed banner, and like you said, at Houston, that's a $15,000 check in the steer show. Then you got to roll the dice. And I literally cannot tell you how, because I dealt with a lot of customers that wanted breed steers. And I cannot tell you how many times, whether it was an Angus, a red Angus, whatever, like, if it gets in, we win. And I had some not get in, but every time I told somebody that and it got in, we won. So I'll take my chances, I guess.
And I think that's just normal. That's where we're at in the classification. So hopefully we brought to light that there is differences. And when I grew up in Illinois, I wasn't aware of the breed classifications until later, probably later in my show career or even afterwards. But it is interesting. And sometimes we get so ingrained in what our county show's doing and what we're doing at our regional or state fair. And that's just in our mind. That's how it is everywhere. It's very, very, very different. It's interesting to me. I did a classification for a county or a tri-county show in California on pigs many years ago. And I'd never done one before, but I thought it'd be, this can't be that difficult. We call them as a Hampshire, York, whatever it may be. Well, they come up there and they're not even allowed to tell you at this one show, Ryan, I've got a white pig with erect ears. I'm assuming they want it to be a Yorkshire. Would that be assumed?
Yeah, I mean.
But no, I remember I called one of Yorkshire and said, well, no, this is a crossbred. And our breeder told us that the exhibitor has no input. That classifier classifies, period, with no knowledge of what they want to be or anything like that. So this young person wanted to be in the crossbred, I think, because they were aware it was a crossbred, even though it met all the technical classifications to be in the Yorkshire show. So it's different everywhere. It's interesting to me how it's evolved and how families in different regions of the country are probably unaware on how it's happening somewhere else. And I don't know if there's a good system. I think the best system is what's maybe evolved in that given area if they've been willing to make change and adapt as best they can. Now, not all of them have, but
I mean, I'll just put this out there. If you want to like make it completely legit and fair, then you parentage test, but that's expensive and timely and whatever else. But that's the only way you're ever going to make it 100% legit. Can you at least agree with that, Dale?
Yeah, and even then, though, Ryan, because I'm not holding back here, but even the registered animals, and we're getting more advanced in some of our genetic testing, like we can determine what percent Hampshire a pig is according to what we considered a Hampshire so many years ago. The problem is, well, was that one that we considered a true full Hampshire? Was that truly there? So just like a lot of the genomic testing on the cattle side, we're going back to basically some of those original EPDs and assuming those were correct to develop some of the genomic markers. So it's only as good as the material you start with. So we can obviously very clearly parentage test and say, yeah, this one is out of this sire and this dam. But how do you clarify that sire and that dam are truly legit? So it's never ending. So I don't have an answer, unfortunately, and it's not something that we're trying to bring out as negative in the industry at all. Just awareness that wow, there's a lot of different ways to do these things, and it works in different parts of the country in different ways.
One funny story I want to share with everybody. So one year at Houston, I think it's kind of one of these things that doesn't even matter anymore, but they were trying to make this to where it was as secret ballot as you could. So they had this deal where you had like the best thing that I can like refer to is like a, garage door opener or a gate opener or whatever. And so it had a green button and a red button at the Houston Steer Show. I think they did it in all species this one year. And so if you thought the animal classifies, you hit green. If you thought it didn't, you hit red. And then they had these two big, huge, like spotlights. One was red and one was green. And so if you got kicked out, this big red light flashes and what. It was awful.
Brought a lot of attention to the situation.
Oh, yeah. And so, of course, I had a shorthorn that year. And what do I get? I get the big red light. All this other. I mean, it was nuts. He went on to win the AOBs anyway, so it didn't matter. But, yeah, the red light, green light here at the Houston Steer Show, that there was a lot of trauma involved. There was a lot of trauma.
I can only imagine. Speaking of that, I do have one other example I want to bring out. And this is because I think we need to change it. And again, this is just my personal opinion. Maybe others would say we don't need to. And maybe there's a purpose that I'm unaware of. Louisville this past year, Ryan, in the Market Lamb Show, I believe traditionally they have done classifications there. I don't believe they have registration papers, but I know they had a classification committee when you went through screening or weighing or turned your weight card in, whatever it may be, and you were classified in or out of a given breed. Well, they went into the arena this year without that happening into the actual show class, and they classified in the ring after the judge placed them.
Ew.
So in one of the Suffolk classes he had pulled, or after he pulls them, he'd pulled maybe 15 to keep, and all but just a handful of those were classified out, and it made for a mess, a complete mess. So I don't think that's probably a good place or time to do it. And I believe one of the exhibitors had said they were doing it because they were allowing them to classify non-shorn, or before they sheared them, the classification committees were looking at them in the past. And I believe one of them that classified as a Dorset, once they sheared off the longer, lighter hair, he looked more like a Hampshire. I don't know what all evolved there, but that was their purpose, was to try to get a better classification. But man, if you're going to do that, you've got to do it prior to them coming in the ring, or even prior to the judge seeing them at all. The judge does not need to be placing any of those animals that are going to be kicked out. I mean, we have some of that happen when we have a weighback issue. And again, some shows are weighing them before they go in the ring. So that was a little bit of a mess, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, well, not like that, but now San Antonio, you classify on your way into the show ring. And so it's even...
But if you don't classify, you don't go in the ring.
Right, you don't go. And you go back and like regroup for whatever breed you're going to run out again. But yeah, so it makes it a little more, dramatic, because you're like got your steer ready and he's pumped up and, you've done everything to make him look 12 o'clock. Whoops, you're not an Angus. Bye, go back.
go stand in the stalls for a little longer. With that, and just like the weighing, I get when we pull those animals before the final placing, we pull them in, they go weigh and they come back to us, and some don't come back. And I get that. I think in an ideal world, if it wasn't so time consuming, you'd weigh them as they come in the ring, but that's not practical with the kind of numbers that some of these shows are dealing with. So there's not a right way to do everything, but let's always try to find a better way and continue to have an open mind and search out things that may be more efficient or better for those kids. And embarrassing those youth out in the show ring at that time, doing your classification in the ring after the judge has already pulled them, that just doesn't sound like a good plan to me.
No, that doesn't. Nor like the red light, but they got rid of the red light, green light after 1 year. So,
and I'm pretty sure this won't happen. Maybe not. Maybe they're trying to prove a point that if you don't want your child embarrassed, don't push the limits.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, that could have been the principle behind it. I don't know. I really don't. And I don't know how effective it would be if they were to do it again. No idea. I'm sure it was done for the right reason, just didn't work out the best. Is it time?
Yes, for Dale's favorite part of the process, the question and answer. But before we get to that, I would like to thank the South Texas Show Series, Tracy Beadle and her team. They are a national top 10 jacket sponsor, a Region 3 sheep sponsor, and the hog and cattle sponsor for Texas. The South Texas Show Series is in Kingsville, Texas. They hold 3 all-species shows with 4 rings each year, and they hold those shows in September, November, and December. Show is one of the premier livestock show events in the state of Texas and began in 2007, and for the last 15 years has shown a dedication to the livestock show kids of Texas that few can equally match. And so, Tracy and South Texas Show Series, I want to thank you for all your sponsorship at the BTRJLA, and I do also want to say, even though Kingsville is a very long ways away from some of you people from other states, in one weekend, you could get 4 rings if you want to attend, and 4 is almost half of the 10 that you can count. So look into that next fall.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Ryan, you know that sometimes I'm not the most organized when I'm traveling. I'm just happy to get the laptop and the microphone, all those things to work. So I do not have the names of the people that submitted the questions, but we have the questions.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that we didn't have question and answer.
No,
I was going to be like, yes.
We have some questions here.
Great.
First one. Been really bugging me lately, and I figured this might be a good question for question and answer. I think you may have covered it, as it's a fairly common question. Why do judges say an animal can go either first or third, and that's the reason? Why not first or second, or something similar? Why does it have to be first or third most of the time? Thank you for reading this, and I hope to hear it on the podcast. Listen every week and look forward to hearing it on Fridays. Headed to the show or headed to a barn?
Mm-hmm. It's stupid. And we covered this before. It is bleepity, bleepity, bleepy, bleep, 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 explicit, excellent, stupid. First or third is one of the dumbest things I have ever heard in my life. I don't know why people still say it. I don't know why they think it. I have never, ever understood. If your animal is that close to first, then it needs to be second, not third. Other than checks all the boxes, this may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in a show ring. But no, the only thing that I have ever been able to try to wrap my head around this is possibly there are 2 animals in the top trio that are built and look very similar, and then there's another one that is way different. And that's the only scenario that I can see where this first or third nonsense bullshit term could ever be viable. But the times that I have heard it said and watched it in a show ring, it has never been that situation.
I'm going to leave it alone. I agree with that philosophy. I think it stemmed from those 2 animals being very similar and one that was really an outlier.
Yes.
But I could even make a case to slide that outlier right in between them because maybe...
It doesn't matter. This is dumb. It is dumb, and they sound dumb. Oh,
you don't have an opinion on this, though, do you?
No, I have no opinion, but I am going to bring this up, and this is going to get hate mail, and I do not care. But I want to state for the record that everyone who judges a show of any size, any kind, any species, whatever, we all need to be more conscientious of the words that are coming out of our mouths. Because there are people that listen, and a lot of times it doesn't make no sense.
You're saying the words don't match the animal.
Just stupid stuff is said. Stupid.
Okay. We're going to go on to the next question.
People do listen. I'm just saying, people do listen to what you're saying. Pay more attention to the words that come out of your mouth on the microphone.
Ryan and Dale, I've been listening to you all from the beginning, and it's a great way to start my Friday. I have a comment more than a question and want to see your thoughts on it.
We don't appreciate comments. We don't.
I see it as a question. That's why I threw it in here.
This is not the peanut gallery. We did not ask for comments, sir.
One class during the Fort Worth Steer Show, while the steers were coming in, one steer got loose and they shut the gate. By the time the calf was caught, the judge already started looking the steers over. At the time they opened the gate and let the remaining steers in the ring, the judge completely missed half the class walking in. Question's not overly clear, but I think I know what they're getting at.
I'm not trying to be offensive to whoever wrote this, but that's not the whole story. So, yes, an animal did get loose in the ring. People did not understand, and one of the official ringmen put this on their Facebook later. In the back, in the holding area, another steer got loose, and they were trying to get that steer caught. That's why a half of the animals came in to the class, and the other ones hadn't yet. And I will say, I was a little confused at the time, but even not knowing the backstory as I do now, those animals all did get in there, and Gerald Callahan did make 2 additional passes at that second half of the steers that were over there. He pulled several of them off the wall. He got the ones he wanted out in the middle of the ring. I'm just saying.
That's the bottom line. And he made an effort to make sure that he saw them all.
He went back to that side twice. I watched the class. I know. I was there. Front row. Bunch of y'all saw me on the little telecast, whatever. And so he got what he wanted out of there. It was unfortunate, and I was confused at the time. I didn't even know about the calf being loose in the back until one of the ringmen took to social media the next day. But yes, circumstances happen. It was confusing and a little, I'm sure people's feathers got ruffled. Callahan got what he wanted out of that class and in the center.
No, and I appreciate it. I think it is confusing if people don't know the backstory sometimes, but I can use an example that maybe concerns people as well. What doesn't matter what show you're at, you're in Ryan, you'll see this at a lot of the jackpot shows, or even more so maybe the county fairs. You'll have 10 animals in a class and 9 of them are in the ring, and they keep calling, and they finally let the 9 come in. And then that final animal shows up and you've already started evaluating the class, maybe even placing the class. I don't have a problem with, I would prefer they were there on time, but maybe there was a legitimate reason they weren't. I don't have a problem bringing that one in and still fitting it in wherever I feel it goes as a judge. But I know that those on the outside think, well, he's going to discount that one, or he didn't get it in the right place, or whatever. It really, as a judge, you're going to evaluate that animal and you have a pretty darn good idea where it's going to go. I don't think it has affected things. I'm not saying whether the animal should be let in the class late or should not. I'm just saying when they do come in late, more times than not, that judge is still going to have them in the same place they would have if they would have came in the beginning.
3 times this weekend, I had to do just what you're saying. Animal class is placed, or 2 times the whole class was placed. One time, some of the animals were placed, whatever. Kid comes in for whatever reason, and it's not a problem. You evaluate that animal, you put them where they need to go, and move on. I mean, and like you said, I know people think that, oh, we're not going to get a fair shot. Well, one of the classes this weekend, it's completely placed, and the animal that comes in is the best one, so it wins that class and is a reserve breed champion. So, yeah, under me, or I think under most people, if that's a situation, you're going to get the full look and get exactly where you deserve to be. But yeah.
So if the show management chooses to let them in, and sometimes they're not going to let them in, and that's not up to us as the judge. But if they let them in, we need to put them where we believe they belong.
That's
and
right.
I think that gets done.
Absolutely. Yep, I do too.
Okay, Ryan and Dale, will you be broadcasting at any of the Texas majors or OYE this year? We haven't discussed this.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
That's the honest truth. I'm not saying that we
literally. I'm living to week here, people. I don't know.
Yeah, we shouldn't disclose how far in advance we plan things, but that's that's about where we're at, unfortunately. But no,
I'm not against it. I'm just saying I have not put any forethought or to it. This is the only time I will be at San Antonio, and we're recording this obviously not live. So yeah, San Antonio will not be having a live one. I don't know about the rest of them, but yeah. So that's all I can say.
No, if our schedules allow that's something that I think's good. Happy to do those things. It's just difficult sometimes to make all that work. In hindsight, obviously Ryan and I are in San Antonio at the same time. So we in
not
theory,
the same hotel.
No, I go a little newer, what I call a little cleaner. Ryan goes a little more expensive, one of those 200-year-old downtown type hotels.
History.
I call it old. I call it very used.
It has bar. Very nice bar.
Probably does have a bar. It probably does. Well, Ryan, this is good. I look forward to San Antonio this week. Great stock show happening. It's going to be good.
No cookie dough.
I looked. Maybe it's hiding somewhere, but I will visit with those.
I think you should call upper management and make sure it's not there.
I will discuss that just to make sure. And they said they were going to try. They didn't say they could do it, but they were going to try to bring it back. And I do see these stands popping up, and I see cookie dough type things in grocery stores. But the first time I ever experienced just somebody selling cookie dough was here in San Antonio several years ago. And
Have you ever ate the rat on a stick at San Antonio?
The rat on a stick?
Yes.
Not a true rat.
No, but that's what it looks like. The deal.
Everything here is on a stick. Everything.
No, I know, but like the deal right across from it's right outside the steer barn or whatever. I don't know. It's supposed to be chicken. Everyone says it's great, but like I literally call it the rat on the stick stand because it just looks terrible. But I didn't know if you had ever. I will take you to the rat on the stick stand.
Because Craig took me to this cheeseburger stand, maybe the same stand at $16.
No, they don't sell cheeseburgers here. It's like fried rice and noodles and rat on a stick.
Yeah, I'm good. I'd try that one.
Okay,
I would try that.
I will have to take you to the rat on the stick stand.
Wonderful. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?